Okay, in this tutorial we will make a lifebar. So I want to create a game object, let's call it health bar. We drop the white square in it, set it to be exactly 0. Maybe we want some scale, so scalar. For now it does nothing, everything would be inside of it. We duplicate the white square, set it to be x10 for now. Now if we actually try to so this would be scaling our life bar. This would be the inner life, so let's call it inner. This would be layer order 1. We can actually duplicate this too. Let's call it border, I don't know. We could set it to be black color or white color. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Right, so now we have some border. Let's make it something like this. Okay, and when our life is going to go, we want to reduce it, right? So border would be -1 actually. Let's set it to be 1, this 2, and this is going to be 3. Okay, so what's the problem now? When we are trying to scale down the green life, we get this effect. Okay, but we actually don't want to change this life block, so we drop it inside another game object, and this one would control the scale. Okay, so if we set it to be -5, now it's still getting smaller in this point, but if we set it to be 5 in here, we get the desired effect. Okay, so this is our life bar, very simple. Okay, so next step, let's create a new folder, life utility, I don't know. Let's call it life bar. Drop it. Okay, open it. Drop it in here, and the only thing we want to say is void. So we want to get using Unity engine.ui, and we want to get texture, UI texture. So texture, I guess. Texture. And actually, just game object, transform life, and I want to have public void set life, float value, and our value is equal to value FABC. So we want to clamp, right? So this would be how much we scale the life bar. So it's going to be between 1 and 2, between 0 and 1. And in here we just say life.set scale, local scale is equal to new vector 3, value 1 and 1, and that's it. This is the lifebar code, and here we say public. Okay, set this to something like this, and just to be sure it's working, we can say public void update. Public float life is going to be 1, and all we do is set life to be set life. Okay, with that we can actually see if this is working. Okay, let's go and see what is the... Okay, so this is working just fine. Now the only thing we actually need to do is have a life system and somehow call the public set life script from there. And that's it. Okay, so the next step we want to do is just change the ordering of the enemies. So I took each enemy. I now have the sprite renderer inside another game object. This one would have a monster on it, and we do the same thing for every one of our enemies. Then we need to unpack it, and now we would save each of the enemies. Okay, remove the enemy over here, apply all. Right, so now we watch the board. Monsters, we have nothing over here. 1, 2, 3. Remove all of them. We can see that it's working just fine. So, right. Oh, except this one is tilted. And if we paste him, I just need to fix this position. Apply all. Cool. Now, the next step would be to go inside the monster, and in here we do not want to rotate everything, so here we rotate the transform up, and instead of it, public transform rotation target, and just say rotation target and rotation target. With that in mind, we go for each of the enemies and set the rotation target to be, maybe we can just do this. Okay, so we go inside of here, rotation target, call this sprite, set the rotation target to be sprite, go inside of this one, sprite, and now we set this to be sprite again, set it to be sprite, and set again to be sprite. With that in mind, we can remove all of them. Now we start to make sure everything works as expected, and yeah, our enemies still can move. Now the next step would be to go inside the monster, and so in this case I will do it in the not so cool way. I will just simply drop a health bar on each of those. We can set it to be 0.1, 0.1, something like so, and go back. Now we can exit this. The second enemy, we can again drop a life bar onto it. We can set this life bar to be the size of 0.1 and 0.1. We can set it to be around here. Go inside the other enemy. Set a health bar. Scale 0.1, 0.1. Move it down a little bit, and that's it. Now if we run the game, okay, everyone has a life bar, and this life bar is pretty static. Okay, now, the only difference I saw, and this one has scale of, should be 1 and 1, 0.7 and 0.7. Oops, 0.7, 0.7. One and 1, 0.8 and 0.8, and move the life bar a little bit down. With that, everything should be in the right scale. So now we have a life bar, and it's interesting that this sprite has order layer 3. So in this case, what I want to do is add another sorting layer, life bar, and set the sorting layer to be life bar for all. Apply. With that in mind, the life bar should always be above the sprites. Cool. Okay, the next step, let's add a health system. Health system. The only thing health system should do is receive damage. For now, maybe we would add some more functionality to it. So health system should have public int, or maybe show in inspector serialized field, private int max health, actually float. Same thing for current health, and that's basically it. And the only thing we want to say is we want to have public void take damage, float damage, and we set current health minus equal damage. Okay, the last step, we want to have delegate void on death. Okay, and we had a public OnDeath. Let's call it death callback. OnDeath callback. Okay. So let's set it public delegate void, and here if current health is less than 100, we say on death callback dot invoke. Okay, so if on death callback is not equal to null, we would invoke. Okay. So in here we would do the logic of our unit dying, whatever you want. Maybe monsters should drop gold, I don't know, but this is it here. And let's probably add a private int, private void initialize, and the initialize should have something that says float max health, float current health, and we can set it to be 100 and 100. On default, this max health is equal to max health. This dot current health is equal to current health, and that's it. Another thing we probably want to do is pass a life bar. So life bar, and private life bar, and this life bar is equal to life bar. Okay, and in here, when we take damage, we just want to show it. So life bar dot set life to be max current health divided by max health. So I made a typo here. This should be set life with big letters. Okay. And with that, we go inside monster, and we can say okay, so monster should probably add a public float max initial HP and set it to be 100. And with that in mind, we can say, so health system, let's make it not mono behavior, we don't really need it. And in that we can say private health system. So now health system is equal to new health system, and health system dot set initialize, and we can see it, so it should be public health system dot initialize max initial life, so for initial HP, initial initial HP and get component life bar. With that, it's fine. The only thing we left to say is inside health system. Maybe we don't really have life bar, so if life bar is not equal to null, then update the HP. Okay, and the next step, monster. So we say public, so void take a void OnDeath, and let's just print something. So log monster has died and destroy game object. With that in mind, health system dot plus equal on death. Okay, so now whenever our monster will die, it would just simply kill our enemy, and the only thing we can do in here, just to make sure it's working, it's whenever the next is equal to target, just say health system dot take damage, and let's take about 10 over time dot delta time. And they are dying way too fast. As you may have noticed, I made here a stupid mistake. For some reason I said if life is less than 100, the monster should die, right? So now if we run everything, this should work. So let's run the game. And the monster is dying. Right, so we can spawn about 5 enemies.